Hello, and welcome to another episode of Infidelity Tales Lab. Thank you for being here today. We'd love to know, where are you catching this story from? Let us know below. Now, let's dive into today's story. Clyde Weaver maintained perfect posture in his tailored charcoal suit as he watched his son Michael walk across the stage at Harvard Medical School's graduation ceremony. At 45, Clyde had mastered the art of appearing completely in control, a skill that had served him well while building his software security empire. His angular features remained composed, but his steel-gray eyes gleamed with genuine pride as Michael accepted his diploma. Dr. Michael James Weaver, the dean announced, his voice carrying across the assembly hall. From his position near the stage, Clyde could see his wife Genevieve's perfectly manicured hand raise her phone to capture the moment. After 20 years of marriage, she still turned heads in her fitted crimson dress, her blonde hair styled immaculately. She caught his eye and smiled, raising her other hand to discreetly wipe away a tear. Clyde's mother Edith sat rigidly in the front row, her fingers gripping her purse with unnecessary force. Her behavior had been off lately, but Clyde had attributed it to the excitement of the graduation. Now, watching her from the corner of his eye, he noticed how she seemed to flinch whenever Genevieve moved. As Michael made his way back to his seat, Clyde's thoughts drifted to the weekly poker nights Genevieve hosted. They'd started right after the wedding, a way to keep his groomsmen connected despite their busy lives. Pablo Burton, his corporate attorney, always brought expensive cigars. Felix Koch, now a successful real estate developer, never failed to complain about losing. Les North, who'd gone from college athlete to respected high school coach, usually won big, probably due to his talent for reading people. "Your boy did good, Clyde," Pablo whispered, leaning forward from the row behind him. "We should celebrate properly tonight." Clyde nodded without turning around. "The party at the house should suffice." "Come on, man," Les chimed in softly. "Special occasion calls for special celebration." "Jen already said we could use the game room. I have early meetings tomorrow," Clyde replied, his tone brooking no argument. "But enjoy yourselves." Felix's laugh was barely audible. "Always working. Some things never change." Genevieve turned slightly, offering the men a subtle wink that made Edith's knuckles whiten around her purse strap. After the ceremony, as guests filed out of the hall, Clyde found himself cornered by fellow parents and faculty members eager to discuss potential investments or cybersecurity concerns. He handled each conversation with practiced ease, years of corporate negotiations evident in his measured responses and commanding presence. "Dad!" Michael called out, making his way through the crowd. At 26, he was nearly as tall as Clyde, with the same dark hair and determined set to his jaw. Clyde excused himself from a particularly persistent conversation about blockchain technology and embraced his son. "Congratulations, Doctor," he said, his usual authoritative tone softening slightly. "Thanks, Dad. I couldn't have done it without you and Mom." Genevieve appeared at their side, slipping her arm through Clyde's. "We never doubted you for a moment, darling," she said, reaching up to straighten Michael's graduation cap. "Your father's determination and my charm. You were destined for greatness." "Speaking of greatness," Pablo interrupted, approaching with Felix and Les in tow. "We got you something special, kid." He handed Michael an expensive-looking envelope. Michael opened it and whistled. "Season tickets to the Celtics? This is incredible. Thanks, Uncle Pablo, and Uncle Felix, and Uncle Les." "You earned it," Felix said, clapping Michael on the shoulder. "We've watched you grow up into a fine young man." Les nodded. "Remember all those basketball sessions in your backyard? Now look at you about to start your residency at Mass General." Edith appeared suddenly, almost pushing between Les and Michael. "We should head to the house," she announced, her voice unusually sharp. "The caterers will be waiting." Clyde noticed how she positioned herself between the men and her grandson, like a barrier. Her behavior was becoming more difficult to ignore, but this wasn't the time or place to address it. "Mother's right," he said smoothly. "The party's set to start in an hour." As they made their way to their respective vehicles, Clyde observed the various interactions around him. Pablo helped Genevieve into their Mercedes SUV, with perhaps too familiar a touch. Felix's phone buzzed constantly, but he ignored it while walking with the group. Les spent too long hugging several female graduates goodbye. The drive home was quiet, with Michael riding with his friends and Edith insisting on taking her own car despite Genevieve's offer to drive her. Clyde used the silence to mentally review his upcoming week. Board meetings, security contracts, and international calls filled his schedule. "You're awfully quiet," Genevieve said, her hand moving to rest on his thigh as he drove. "Still processing that our little boy is all grown up." "Just thinking about work," he replied, not missing how she withdrew her hand too quickly. "Always work," she sighed. "Will you at least try to enjoy the party?" The boys have put together a wonderful surprise for Michael. Clyde's jaw tightened imperceptibly at her casual reference to his friends as the boys. "I'm sure they have," he said evenly. "They've always been very involved in our lives." Genevieve turned to look out the window, but not before Clyde caught the fleeting expression of unease cross her face. "They're family," she said softly. "They have been since the wedding." "Yes," Clyde agreed, his tone neutral but his grip on the steering wheel betraying tension. "Since the wedding." They pulled up to their estate, where catering vans were already parked in the circular driveway. Clyde had purchased the property 10 years ago, a symbol of his company's success and his family's status. Now, watching Genevieve hurry inside to oversee the final preparations, he wondered what else had happened in this house while he was building his empire. Pablo's Porsche roared up the driveway, followed by Felix's Range Rover and Les's more modest sedan. The three men emerged laughing, Les already loosening his tie. "Hey, Clyde," Pablo called out. "Need help setting up the bar?" "The staff has it handled," Clyde responded, his authoritative demeanor firmly in place. "Although I'm sure Genevieve could use your expertise in the game room." The three men exchanged quick glances before Pablo grinned. "Always happy to help the lady of the house." As they disappeared inside, Edith's car pulled up. She remained sitting behind the wheel, staring straight ahead until Clyde approached and opened her door. "Mother? Are you all right?" Edith's hands trembled as she unbuckled her seatbelt. "I need to tell you something," she whispered. "About Genevieve and Grandma's." Michael's voice rang out as he jogged up the driveway. "I've been looking for you. Mom says you need to help her with the family photos before everyone arrives." Edith's face went pale, but she forced a smile. "Of course, dear. We can't keep your mother waiting." She allowed Michael to help her from the car, shooting Clyde a desperate look over her shoulder as they walked inside. Clyde remained in the driveway for a moment, his mind racing through recent events with the same analytical precision he applied to security breaches. His mother's strange behavior, Catherine's absence from family events, Genevieve's weekly poker nights with his groomsmen. Pieces of a puzzle were shifting into place, but the picture they formed was something he wasn't quite ready to acknowledge. A burst of laughter from inside the house drew his attention. Through the window, he could see Genevieve arranging people for photos, his three oldest friends hovering nearby with drinks already in hand. They all looked perfectly at ease, perfectly normal, perfectly happy. Clyde straightened his tie and headed inside, his face revealing nothing of his thoughts. If there was something wrong in his perfect life, he would discover it. And if anyone had betrayed him, they would learn why his competitors feared him far more than they feared his lawyers. Catherine Weaver sat alone in her car, parked a block away from her brother's mansion. The graduation party was in full swing. She could see the steady stream of guests arriving, their expensive cars filling the long driveway and spilling onto the street. Her phone had buzzed 15 times with messages from family members asking where she was, but she couldn't bring herself to respond. The last family gathering she'd attended had been Michael's engagement party 3 months ago. She'd spent the entire evening watching Genevieve interact with Pablo, Felix, and Les, seeing things she wished she could unsee. The casual touches, the meaningful glances, the way they all disappeared into different rooms throughout the night only to emerge slightly disheveled. It made her stomach turn. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was Edith. "Catherine, please." Her mother's voice was barely a whisper when she answered. "I can't handle this alone anymore. He needs to know." "I can't face her," Catherine replied, gripping the steering wheel. "Every time I see Genevieve, I remember what I saw through that window. And the videos she showed me." "What videos?" Edith's sharp intake of breath was audible. "Catherine, what aren't you telling me?" Catherine closed her eyes, fighting back tears. Last month, when I caught them, Genevieve called me into her office the next day. She had videos, Mom. Years of videos. She said if I told Clyde, she'd edit them to make it look like I was involved. She said no one would believe it was doctored because Clyde's friends would back up her story. That evil woman, Edith hissed. Using my children against each other. Catherine, your brother needs to know. He's not just being betrayed by his wife. Those men he calls friends have been lying to him for 20 years. You don't understand. Catherine's voice cracked. Genevieve has dirt on everyone. She knows things about my divorce, about Michael's girlfriend's family. She's been collecting secrets for years, Mom. She's got us all trapped. The line went quiet for a moment before Edith spoke again, her voice stronger. No one traps a weaver. Your brother built his entire company around protecting people's secrets. If anyone can handle this, it's Clyde. But it'll destroy him, Catherine whispered. 20 years of marriage, his closest friend since college. It's already destroying our family, Edith countered. You're hiding in your car instead of celebrating your nephew's graduation. I can barely look at those people without shaking. And Clyde. He deserves to know the truth about the woman he married and the friends he trusted. Catherine watched another group of guests enter the mansion. Through the windows, she could see Genevieve holding court in the main hall, laughing and touching Pablo's arm while Clyde spoke with some hospital administrators across the room. She's so obvious about it, Catherine said bitterly. She doesn't even try to hide it anymore. And those men, they act like they're entitled to my brother's home, his wife, his life, because they've gotten away with it for so long, Edith replied. Every business trip, every late meeting, every time Clyde's focus was on building his company. They were there taking advantage, using his own security systems to record their betrayal, Catherine added, remembering the sophisticated camera setup she'd glimpsed during her unfortunate discovery. The irony would kill him. A knock on her car window made Catherine jump. Clyde stood outside, his expression unreadable as always. Catherine quickly ended the call with their mother. Plan to join us? Clyde asked as she rolled down the window. His tone was light, but his eyes were sharp, observant. I'm not feeling well, Catherine stammered. Might be coming down with something. Interesting. Clyde leaned against her car door. Mother's been not feeling well for weeks. You've missed the last 6 family dinners. And now you're sitting outside my house during your nephew's graduation party, talking to Mom on the phone instead of celebrating inside. Catherine felt tears threatening again. Clyde, Enough, he cut her off, but not unkindly. Something's wrong. It involves my wife, doesn't it? And my friends? Catherine's silence was answer enough. Get out of the car, he ordered, opening her door. Whatever's going on, we're dealing with it. Now. I can't, she whispered. Genevieve, she has things on me. On all of us? Clyde's expression hardened. My wife is blackmailing my sister. Before Catherine could respond, they heard laughter approaching. Pablo and Felix were walking down the driveway, presumably to retrieve something from their cars. Catherine's, Pablo called out cheerfully. Finally decided to join the party. We've missed you at poker night, Felix added with a smirk that made Catherine want to scream. Clyde's hand tightened on the car door as he noticed his sister's reaction to the men. Catherine was just leaving, he said smoothly. Not feeling well? That's too bad. Pablo's eyes lingered on Catherine. We were hoping to see more of you. Felix laughed at what was clearly an inside joke. Catherine felt bile rise in her throat. I'll walk you out, Clyde told his friends, his tone making it clear this wasn't a suggestion. As the men headed toward their cars, he turned back to Catherine. Go home. Lock your doors. Don't answer any calls except from me or Mother. Understood? Catherine nodded, unable to speak. Whatever Genevieve has on you, he continued quietly, remember that I own one of the largest cybersecurity firms in the world. No one blackmails my family. As Catherine drove away, she glanced in her rearview mirror. Clyde stood watching her leave, his stance rigid and powerful. For the first time since discovering the truth, she felt a glimmer of hope. Her brother wasn't just some successful businessman. He was a force to be reckoned with, a man who'd built his fortune by protecting people's most valuable secrets. Genevieve and her lovers had no idea what they'd awakened. The graduation party continued inside the Weaver mansion, But Clyde's attention was far from the celebration. He stood in his home office, watching the security feeds on his monitors while his mother paced behind him. "I caught her last month." Edith's voice shook with anger. "I'd stopped by to drop off some old photos for Michael's wedding slideshow. The cars were in the driveway, Pablo's, Felix's, Les's, but no one answered when I rang the bell." Clyde's jaw clenched. "Go on." "I used my emergency key," Edith continued. "I heard noises from upstairs. I thought someone might be hurt, but when I looked—" She broke off, covering her mouth. "Tell me everything, Mother." Clyde's voice was dangerously calm. "Every detail." "They were in your bedroom," Edith spat. "All of them, filming everything." Genevieve saw me in the doorway and just laughed. Laughed. Said I should have called first. That poker night was private time. Clyde's fingers flew across his keyboard, accessing his home's backup security systems. "Every Thursday night," he murmured. "For 20 years. While I built my company, traveled for contracts, secured other people's secrets. I wanted to tell you immediately," Edith said. "But then Catherine caught them too, and Genevieve threatened her. Started talking about Catherine's ex-husband, about Michael's fiancé's father's business troubles. She's been collecting leverage." Clyde's eyes narrowed as he scrolled through files. "Building a safety net of secrets and lies." A knock at the office door interrupted them. Les stuck his head in. "Hey, boss. We're about to do the toasts. Jen's looking for you." "I'll be there shortly," Clyde responded without turning around. Les lingered for a moment before leaving, closing the door behind him. "How can you stand to look at them?" Edith demanded. "Knowing what they've done?" "Because, Mother," Clyde turned to face her, his expression cold and calculated. "In my business, you never let your target know they're in your sights. Right now, they think they're untouchable. That makes them careless." He returned to his monitors, pulling up encrypted files from his company's secure servers. 20 years of security footage, email backups, phone records, all automatically archived by systems he'd installed to protect his family. Systems Genevieve and his friends had forgotten about, or perhaps never truly understood. "Does Catherine have copies of the videos Genevieve threatened her with?" he asked, his fingers never stopping their rapid movement across the keyboard. "No, Genevieve only showed them to her in the office. Said they were stored somewhere secure." Clyde's laugh was devoid of humor. "Secure. In my house. Using my technology." He accessed another layer of backups. "Everything that happens in this house, every file created, deleted, or transferred, gets logged in multiple locations. Genevieve might think she's clever, but she's playing in my arena." A notification popped up on one of his screens. Clyde's eyes narrowed as he read it. "Les's phone is downloading something from our home network. Let's see what our dear friend is up to." Within moments, Clyde had intercepted the transfer. His expression darkened as he examined the contents. "More videos. He's collecting insurance." He typed a few commands, corrupting the files before they finished downloading. "But two can play at that game." "What are you going to do?" Edith asked, watching her son work with frightening efficiency. "First, I'm going to make sure every piece of evidence is secured and backed up where they can't reach it. Then I'm going to find out exactly what kind of leverage Genevieve has on everyone." He paused, bringing up another set of files. "Did you know Felix has been accessing our guest Wi-Fi every Thursday for 20 years? Always uploads files to an encrypted cloud service right after poker night. Those bastards have been archiving their betrayal in your own home." Edith's voice shook with rage. "Using infrastructure I built and maintained," Clyde agreed, his tone deadly quiet. "Every security upgrade, every system update. I was actually making it easier for them to document their infidelity. The irony would be amusing if it wasn't so insulting." Another knock at the door. This time it was Genevieve herself. "Darling? Everyone's waiting for the toasts." "Come in, dear," Clyde called out, smoothly switching his monitors to display innocent work emails. Genevieve entered, resplendent in her designer dress. She smiled at Edith, who quickly excused herself from the room. "You're missing Michael's big moment," she pouted playfully at her husband. "Just finishing up some work." Clyde rose from his desk, straightening his tie. "Can't neglect the company that pays for all this luxury." "Always so serious." Genevieve wrapped her arms around his neck. "You should learn to relax more. Maybe join us for poker night sometime." Clyde allowed himself to return her embrace, noting how she subtly checked his monitors over his shoulder. "Perhaps I should," he agreed. "It's time I took a more active interest in how you spend your evenings." Something flickered in Genevieve's eyes, uncertainty, maybe even fear, but her smile never wavered. "Well, don't keep us waiting too long." Pablo's prepared quite a speech. "I'm sure he has," Clyde replied, watching her leave the office. Once the door closed, he returned to his desk and pressed a button under the surface. Hidden panels in the walls slid open, revealing additional servers and security equipment. "Time to see exactly what kind of operation you've been running in my house, my dear." Hours of security footage began downloading to his secure servers. Email chains, phone records, bank statements. 2 decades of digital breadcrumbs left by people too arrogant to cover their tracks. Every file that passed through his home network. Every video uploaded to supposedly secure clouds. Every message sent from devices connected to his Wi-Fi. All of it had been quietly logged and archived by systems so deeply embedded in the house's infrastructure that even his IT team didn't know they existed. Clyde Weaver hadn't become one of the most successful cybersecurity experts in the world by being trusting. He'd built his fortune on the principle that everyone had secrets, and those secrets were valuable. Now he would use those same skills to uncover exactly how deep this betrayal went. The sounds of the party drifted up from below. Laughter, clinking glasses, his son's voice thanking guests for coming. Clyde allowed himself a moment of regret for the innocence that was about to be shattered. Then he straightened his shoulders and headed downstairs to play his part in the charade one last time. Let them think they were still in control. Let them believe their secrets were safe. Soon enough, they would learn the true meaning of security and the price of betraying the man who'd made it his life's work. Chester Klein's office at Weaver Security Solutions occupied the entire top floor of the company's headquarters. The space buzzed with the hum of servers and multiple display screens tracking global security threats in real time. At 3 a.m, Chester sat before his main workstation, his fingers flying across 3 different keyboards as data streamed across his monitors. The quiet whoosh of the elevator announced Clyde's arrival. Chester didn't turn around, but his posture straightened instinctively. In 15 years working as Clyde's head of cybersecurity, he'd never seen his boss at the office this late, or this angry. "Show me everything," Clyde ordered, his voice carrying the same authority that had built a billion-dollar empire. Chester pulled up the first set of files. "I've been running deep scans since you called. The data trail is extensive." He brought up a timeline on the main screen. "Their operation goes back to the day after your wedding. Every Thursday night like clockwork." Clyde leaned forward, studying the patterns of uploads and downloads. "What else?" "Pablo Burton's been busy." Chester switched screens. His law firm's financial records show systematic embezzlement over the past decade. Small amounts at first, but growing larger. Last month alone, he transferred $500,000 to offshore accounts. Gambling, high-stakes poker rooms in Vegas, Atlantic City, even Monaco. Chester pulled up surveillance photos. He loses big, then steals more to cover his losses. Classic addiction spiral. Clyde's expression hardened. "Felix Koch." Chester hesitated. "That's complicated." He accessed another database. On paper, Felix is the perfect family man. Beautiful wife, 3 kids, house in the suburbs. But he brought up property records from Arizona. He's got another life. Second wife, 2 more kids. Neither family knows about the other. How long? 15 years. He married Sarah number 2 just months after your wedding. Uses business trips as cover to split time between families. Chester displayed more documents. He's been embezzling from his real estate developments to maintain both households. The paper trail is messy, but it's there if you know where to look. Clyde absorbed the information with dangerous calm. Unless Chester's face darkened. That's the worst part. He accessed encrypted files from the school district server. As a coach, he has access to student records, college recommendations, scholarship applications. He's been using that position to prey on vulnerable students. Mostly girls from troubled homes, some with immigration issues. He promises to help their careers, then show me proof. Clyde's voice was deadly quiet. Chester brought up a series of emails, text messages, and surveillance footage. He's careful, but not careful enough. There are at least 12 victims we can confirm over the past 5 years. Probably more before that. Clyde studied the evidence, his jaw clenched. And my wife knows about all of this? She's the architect, Chester confirmed, pulling up more files. Every Thursday night gathering is meticulously documented. She keeps copies of everything, the videos, the financial records, the evidence of their crimes. It's her insurance policy. Insurance? If any of them try to expose the affairs, she can destroy them completely. Pablo would lose his law license and face prison. Felix's double life would implode. Les would. Chester trailed off. They're trapped in her web, and they know it. Clyde straightened, his decision made. I want everything. Every file, every video, every piece of evidence going back 20 years. Leave no server unturned. Sir, Chester shifted uncomfortably. Some of these systems are protected. Accessing them might not be entirely legal. I don't care about legal. Clyde's voice cut like steel. I care about justice. Those men betrayed my trust, violated my home, and corrupted everything they touched. My wife orchestrated it all. Now they'll learn what happens when you cross someone who specializes in uncovering secrets. Chester nodded, turning back to his keyboards. What about the authorities? Some of this evidence, especially Les's activities. All in good time, Clyde replied. First, we build an airtight case. I want them to feel completely secure, convinced their secrets are safe. Then we'll take everything from them, their families, their careers, their freedom. They used my own security systems to document their betrayal. Now, those same systems will ensure their destruction. For hours, they worked in focused silence. Chester accessed hidden databases, cracked encrypted files, and reconstructed deleted data. Each new discovery painted an increasingly disturbing picture of 20 years of betrayal. Sir, Chester said finally, there's something else you should see. He brought up a series of financial transactions. Genevieve's been moving money. Small amounts at first, but increasing recently. She's building a nest egg, preparing for something. She's planning to leave, Clyde realized. Once Michael's wedding is over, once she's squeezed every last drop of respectability from our marriage. The timing fits, Chester agreed. The transfers accelerated after Michael's engagement. She's liquidating assets, setting up offshore accounts. Classic exit strategy. Clyde smiled, but there was no warmth in it. She really thinks she's going to walk away from this. They all do. He straightened his tie. Every inch the ruthless CEO. Keep digging. I want everything documented, backed up, and unassailable. When we move, there can be no escape routes. As he turned to leave, Chester called after him. Sir, what about Michael? This will destroy his image of his mother. Sometimes, Clyde replied without turning around. The only way to protect someone is to show them the brutal truth. My son deserves to know what kind of woman raised him, what kind of men he called uncles. The pain will be intense, but necessary. The elevator doors closed behind him, leaving Chester to his work. On the screens, 20 years of betrayal continued to unfold in pixels and data streams. Chester cracked his knuckles and dove back in. He'd seen Clyde Weaver destroy corporate rivals without mercy. Now he would help his boss dismantle the elaborate deception that had been playing out in his own home. Detective Morgan Dudley's office at the police department was spartanly furnished, but the walls were covered in commendations. 25 years on the force had taught him to trust his instincts, and right now those instincts were screaming that Clyde Weaver was about to do something drastic. Run this by me again, Morgan said, studying the stack of evidence before him. You're telling me your wife and 3 prominent community members have been conducting activities in your home for 2 decades? Not just conducting them, Clyde replied coolly. Documenting them, cataloging them, using my own security systems to create their personal archive of depravity. Morgan held up a hand. And you obtained this evidence how? Exactly? Legally, if that's your concern. My house, my servers, my security infrastructure. Everything they recorded technically belongs to me. Technically, Morgan repeated. But some of these other files, bank records, private emails, phone logs, were obtained through my company's standard security monitoring protocols, Clyde finished smoothly. My friends all signed user agreements when they accessed my home network. Very comprehensive agreements. Morgan leaned back, studying the man across his desk. In 25 years of law enforcement, he'd never met anyone quite like Clyde Weaver. The tech mogul radiated controlled power. This goes beyond adultery, Clyde continued, pulling out specific files. Pablo Burton has embezzled millions from his law firm to cover gambling debts. Felix Koch is committing bigamy and fraud. And Les North. He paused, his expression darkening. Les is a predator, using his position as a coach to abuse vulnerable students. Morgan opened the file on Les, his face hardening as he read. These accusations are serious. They're not accusations, Clyde corrected. They're facts. Documented, verified, and irrefutable. My wife has been using this information to keep them all in line. A perfect blackmail operation running right under my nose. And you want them all arrested? I want them destroyed. Clyde's voice was calm, but carried absolute conviction. Not just arrested. Not just exposed. I want their entire worlds dismantled with surgical precision. Morgan studied him thoughtfully. Why come to me? With your resources, you could handle this privately. Make them disappear, bury them in lawsuits. Because this needs to be public, Clyde replied. Legal. Undeniable. I want their wives to see the evidence. Their children. Their colleagues. Everyone who ever trusted or respected them needs to witness their true nature. That's brutal. They violated my home. Clyde's control slipped slightly, revealing the rage beneath. Used my hospitality, betrayed my trust, corrupted my wife, and filmed it all like some twisted trophy collection. Now they'll learn what real brutality looks like. Morgan pulled out Les's file again. The evidence against North is damning. Multiple victims, documented abuse of power. We could move on this immediately. No. Clyde's response was immediate. They all fall together. No warnings. No chance for cover-ups or escape plans. Why wait? In 2 weeks, they're all attending Michael's graduation party at my house. Their families will be there, their professional colleagues. Everyone who needs to witness their downfall will be present. Morgan frowned. That's theatrical. That's justice, Clyde corrected. They humiliated me in my own home for 20 years. Now they'll be exposed in that same home, in front of everyone they've deceived. And your son? This will devastate him. Michael is stronger than you think. Clyde's expression softened slightly. Yes, learning the truth about his mother will hurt him. But he deserves to know what kind of people have been influencing his life. Morgan stood, pacing behind his desk. Coordinating multiple arrests at a private event. It's complicated. We'll need warrants ready, officers in position. I'll handle the logistics, Clyde assured him. All I need from you is the authority to make it official. Everything else is already in motion. What about your wife? The videos implicate her as much as them. Genevieve, Clyde's voice turned arctic, will face her own reckoning. She's not just a participant. She's the architect, the blackmailer, the one who turned my security systems against me. Her punishment will fit her crimes. Morgan studied the man before him. Clyde Weaver had built an empire protecting other people's secrets. Now he would use those same skills to destroy the people who had betrayed him. It was elegant, ruthless, and utterly terrifying. I'll need everything documented properly, Morgan said finally. Evidence chains, witness statements, all of it bulletproof. When we move, there can be no legal loopholes. Already done, Clyde handed over a secure tablet. Every crime, every violation, every piece of evidence, all organized and verified. Les's victims have agreed to testify. Pablo's law firm is cooperating with a forensic audit. Felix's double life is fully mapped out. Morgan scrolled through the files, impressed despite himself. You've been busy. I protect secrets for a living. Clyde stood, straightening his immaculate suit. Now I'm going to use those same skills to expose the worst secret of all. The truth about who these people really are. As Clyde left the office, Morgan sat heavily in his chair. In all his years on the force, he'd never seen someone channel pain and betrayal into such calculated destruction. Clyde Weaver wasn't just seeking revenge. He was orchestrating complete annihilation. The detective picked up Les's file again, studying the evidence of predatory behavior. Sometimes he reflected, justice needed to be brutal to be effective. And Clyde Weaver was about to teach his betrayers a masterclass in brutality. Clyde's home office had become a command center in the days leading up to Michael's graduation party. Multiple screens displayed surveillance feeds, guest lists, and security protocols. Chester worked quietly at a secondary station, finalizing the distribution system for the evidence. "The video packets are ready," Chester reported, not looking up from his monitors. "One click and every spouse, employer, and relevant authority will receive their designated files. The system is untraceable." "Test it again," Clyde ordered, studying the tactical layout of his mansion. "Everything must be perfect." "Already did. 3 times." Chester pulled up the results. "The files are compressed but uncorrupted. Each recipient will get exactly what they need to see. No more, no less." Catherine entered the office, carrying a thick wedding planning binder. Genevieve's completely distracted with the wedding preparations. "She actually thinks I'm helping her plan my nephew's perfect day." Clyde turned to his sister. "You don't have to maintain this charade. I can handle the rest." "No." Catherine's voice was firm. "She threatened me, tried to destroy me. I want to see her face when she realizes her perfect little world is about to implode." Chester cleared his throat. "The surveillance system upgrades are complete. Every room is covered, every exit monitored. If anyone tries to run, they won't get far," Clyde finished. "Detective Dudley's team will be in position. All access points covered." Catherine opened her binder, revealing hidden compartments filled with documents. "The guest list is finalized. Everyone who needs to witness this will be there. Pablo's law partners, Felix's clients, parents from Les's school." "And the special guest?" Clyde asked. Felix's other wife confirmed her attendance. "She thinks it's a potential real estate networking event." Catherine's smile was cold. "She has no idea her husband's first family will be there." Chester brought up another screen. "The system is ready to lock down all electronic devices once the files are distributed. No one will be able to delete evidence or contact outside help." "What about Michael?" Catherine asked softly. "This will destroy his relationship with his mother." Clyde's expression remained resolute. "Better he learns the truth now than spend his life deceived by these people. He's strong enough to handle it." The door opened and Detective Dudley entered, carrying tactical plans. "My team is prepped. We'll have plainclothes officers scattered throughout the party. When you give the signal, we move." "Any potential issues?" Clyde asked. "Les might run. He's got a history of flight responses when confronted. We'll have the perimeter secured." Morgan spread out the plans. "Pablo will likely try to talk his way out, and Felix might attempt to reach out to his contacts." "Their phones won't work," Chester assured him. "The moment the evidence drops, the signal jammer activates. They'll be completely isolated." Catherine studied the plans. "What about Genevieve? She's skilled at manipulation, at turning situations to her advantage." "Not this time." Clyde's voice was ice. "Every lie she's told, every manipulation she's orchestrated, every betrayal she's engineered, it's all documented. There will be no talking her way out of this." Chester ran another system diagnostic. "The backup servers are secure. Even if they somehow access their private clouds, they can't delete anything. Every file is replicated and protected." "Timeline?" Morgan asked. Clyde pulled up the party schedule. "Guests arrive at 7. Dinner at 8. I'll make my move during the toast at 9. By 9:15, their world's end." Catherine's hands trembled slightly as she closed her binder. 20 years of lies and betrayal, exposed in 15 minutes. "Poetic justice," Morgan observed. "They used your house for their betrayals. Now it becomes their prison." Chester finished his final checks. "All systems are go. Distribution channels confirmed. Evidence packets ready. Security protocols in place. We can move whenever you give the order." Clyde stood at his desk, surveying the elaborate web of technology and tactics they'd assembled. Each screen represented a different aspect of the destruction he'd planned. Financial records that would destroy Pablo, family photos that would devastate Felix, victim statements that would condemn Les, and videos that would expose Genevieve as the manipulative architect of it all. "Maintain normal routines until then," he instructed. Catherine, keep Genevieve occupied with wedding details. Chester, monitor their communications. I want to know if any of them suspect anything. Morgan, have your teams ready but invisible. One hint of police presence, and they might spook. What about you? Catherine asked. I'll play my part. Clyde straightened his tie. The busy husband, the proud father, the trusting friend. Let them think they're still in control. Let them believe their secrets are still safe. As his team dispersed to their assigned tasks, Clyde remained in his office, studying the surveillance feeds. On different screens, he could see the various players in this drama going about their daily routines. Genevieve ordering flowers for the party, Pablo meeting with clients, Felix juggling his two families, Les coaching his team. They all looked so normal, so respectable. None of them had any idea that their carefully constructed facades were about to shatter. The thought brought a cold smile to Clyde's face. He had built his empire by protecting secrets, but his greatest achievement would be exposing them. The next few days passed in a blur of preparation and pretense. Clyde attended business meetings, signed contracts, and maintained his usual schedule. When Genevieve talked about the party plans, he nodded appropriately. When his former friends called to discuss the celebration, he engaged politely. Each lie they told, each casual deception they practiced, only strengthened his resolve. They had taken his trust, his friendship, his marriage, and turned them into mockeries. Now they would learn the true meaning of consequences. Chester continued to monitor their communications, reporting any suspicious activity. Catherine played her role perfectly, keeping Genevieve distracted with endless wedding discussions. Morgan's team conducted discreet surveillance, documenting the target's movements and patterns. Everything was in place. The trap was set. In less than 48 hours, the carefully orchestrated destruction of 4 lives would begin. And Clyde Weaver, the man they had so grievously underestimated, would watch it all burn. The Weaver mansion buzzed with measured sophistication as guests arrived from Michael's graduation celebration. Clyde observed the scene from his study, watching the security feeds as Chester conducted final system checks. All distribution channels are ready, Chester reported. Detective Dudley's team is in position. Every exit is covered. Guest status? Clyde asked, adjusting his perfectly pressed suit. Pablo's entire law firm is here, including the managing partners investigating his embezzlement. Felix's wife is in the main hall, and Sarah, wife number 2, just arrived with their children. She thinks it's a real estate networking event. Chester switched feeds. Les brought his whole coaching staff. Half the school board is present. Clyde studied another monitor, showing Genevieve greeting guests in the foyer. She wore an elegant black dress, moving through the crowd with practiced grace, stopping to touch Pablo's arm, whisper something to Felix, exchange knowing glances with Les. Surveillance systems? Clyde's voice remained coldly professional. Every room is covered. The moment you give the signal, everyone's phones will receive their designated files. No warnings, no escape routes. Catherine entered the study, her posture rigid with tension. Genevieve's completely relaxed. She thinks I'm still terrified of her threats. Even showed me new videos from last week's poker night, bragging about how she keeps everyone in line. Location of targets? Clyde asked. Pablo's at the bar already 3 drinks in. Felix is keeping his wives on opposite sides of the room. He's quite skilled at it after 15 years of practice. Les is surrounded by admiring parents near the piano. Clyde checked his watch. Time to begin. Remember your positions. When I approach the microphone, the system activates. The main hall had been transformed into an elegant reception space. Clyde moved through the crowd with calculated precision, accepting congratulations, engaging in brief conversations, playing the role of proud father and successful businessman. Clyde. Pablo approached, glass in hand. Quite a turnout. Your boy's done well for himself. Indeed, Clyde replied smoothly. Everyone who matters is here. Your managing partner, Richard, seemed particularly interested in attending. Something flickered in Pablo's eyes. Richard? I didn't realize. Oh yes, along with the firm's financial oversight committee. Fascinating discussions we've been having about internal audits. Pablo's hand trembled slightly as he lifted his glass. Before he could respond, Felix joined them, looking distinctly uncomfortable. Wonderful party, Felix said too brightly. Though I should probably head out early. Have an early meeting tomorrow in... He hesitated, clearly trying to remember which wife he'd told which story. Arizona, Clyde suggested quietly. Or here in Boston? Must be difficult keeping your schedule straight. Felix's face drained of color. I don't... Les, Pablo called out desperately, waving over their friend. Come join us. Clyde's being quite entertaining. Les approached cautiously, his practice coach's smile faltering as he noticed the tension. Everything all right here? Perfectly fine, Clyde assured him. We were just discussing schedules. Speaking of which, how many private training sessions did you schedule this week? The school board president was asking earlier. Les's expression froze. Before any of them could speak, Genevieve appeared, placing herself strategically between the men. Darling, she purred to Clyde, shouldn't you be preparing your toast? Everyone's waiting. Of course, Clyde agreed. In fact, I have something special prepared. A multimedia presentation, you might say, something to really capture the past 20 years. Genevieve's perfectly manicured hand tightened on her champagne glass. The past. Every moment of it, Clyde confirmed. Every Thursday night. Every secret meeting. Every betrayal caught on my security cameras. You didn't really think I'd let you use my own systems against me indefinitely, did you? The color drained from Genevieve's face. Pablo grabbed the bar for support. Felix began looking frantically between his two wives across the room. Les took an instinctive step toward the nearest exit. You can't, Genevieve hissed. I have insurance. Files that would destroy your blackmail material? Clyde raised an eyebrow. Already secured. Chester's quite talented at recovering and transferring data. Though I must say, your filing system was impressively organized. Every victim, every crime, every indiscretion, all perfectly documented. Pablo made a choke sound. Clyde, we can explain. Oh, you'll have plenty of time to explain, Clyde assured him. To your law partners, to the police, to your wives, to everyone who trusted you. He turned to Felix. Both wives are here, by the way. Sarah was quite interested in meeting Anne. They've had a lot to discuss. Felix swayed slightly. You don't understand. I understand perfectly, Clyde cut him off. Just as the school board understands exactly what's been happening in Les's private coaching sessions. The evidence is quite comprehensive. Les bolted for the door but stopped short as Detective Dudley stepped into view, badge displayed. No one leaves, Clyde announced quietly. Not until everyone sees the truth. 20 years of lies end tonight. Catherine appeared at his side, tablet in hand. Distribution system is ready. Every phone in this room is about to receive very specific files. You can't do this. Genevieve's voice shook. Think about Michael. About our reputation. I am thinking about Michael, Clyde replied. He deserves to know exactly what kind of people raised him. What kind of woman his mother really is. He stepped away from the group, approaching the microphone set up for toasts. The room quieted expectantly. His targets remained frozen, watching in horror as their carefully constructed world prepared to implode. Ladies and gentlemen, Clyde began, his voice carrying clearly through the speaker system. Please check your phones. I've prepared a special presentation to mark this occasion. Chester, positioned at his laptop, pressed a single key. 100 notification chimes sounded simultaneously throughout the room. The reckoning had begun. The first scream came from Coke as she opened the file, showing Felix with his second family. Sarah, across the room, dropped her phone as pictures of Felix's first wedding filled her screen. How could you? Both women cried almost simultaneously, turning to face their shared husband. Felix stood paralyzed between them as years of deception unraveled. His children from both marriages stared at their phones in confusion, then growing horror as they realized they had siblings they'd never known about. Pablo's managing partner Richard stood up abruptly, phone displaying spreadsheets and bank transfers. Mr. Burton, consider yourself suspended pending criminal investigation. The other law partners quickly surrounded Pablo, cutting off his escape route. It's not what it looks like, Pablo stammered, but the evidence of his embezzlement scrolled endlessly across dozens of screens. The gambling receipts, the offshore accounts, the falsified records, all meticulously documented. Parents who had trusted Les with their children began backing away from him in disgust. The school board president's face turned purple with rage as he read victim statements and viewed surveillance footage of Les's predatory behavior. "You monster," one mother screamed, pulling her daughter close. "You told us the private sessions were for college scholarships." Les made another break for the exit, but Detective Dudley's officers converged smoothly. "Leslie North," Morgan's voice carried clearly, "you're under arrest for multiple counts of sexual assault and abuse of authority." The chaos built as more people opened their files. Clyde's voice cut through the noise, still speaking into the microphone. "For 20 years, these men, my groomsmen, my supposed friends, violated my trust and my home. But they were only following the lead of the true architect." He turned to face Genevieve. "My wife." The room fell silent as new files appeared on phones. Videos from poker nights, recorded on Clyde's own security systems. Genevieve's blackmail threats to Catherine, captured in perfect audio quality. Financial records showing how she had profited from protecting their secrets. "You bitch," Sarah Koch screamed, lunging for Genevieve. "You knew about us the whole time. You helped him lie." And Koch joined the accusation. "You were at both my children's births, pretending to be my friend while helping him maintain his double life." Pablo's wife threw her champagne in Genevieve's face. "Every Thursday night? For 20 years? In my friend's house?" Les's victim's parents moved toward her with murderous expressions, realizing she had known about the abuse and helped cover it up. Genevieve Boyer, Detective Dudley, stepped forward. "You're under arrest for conspiracy, blackmail, and accessory to multiple felonies." Genevieve straightened her spine, trying to maintain her dignity. "You have no proof that would stand up in court." "I made sure." "That's where you're wrong," Clyde interrupted. "Every file, every recording, every piece of evidence was collected legally through my home security systems. Systems you signed authorization for when we got married. Systems that archived everything you thought you were deleting. The prenup," Genevieve whispered in horror, "specifically authorized ongoing security monitoring of all household activities," Clyde confirmed. "You really should have read the fine print." Chester was quite thorough in drafting it. Michael pushed through the crowd, his face ashen. "Mom? How could you?" "Michael, darling, I can explain." Genevieve reached for him, but he backed away. "Explain what?" "How you turned our home into your personal playground. How you helped destroy other families. How you blackmailed my aunt." Catherine moved to Michael's side, putting an arm around her nephew. "She threatened to edit videos to make it look like I was involved. To destroy my reputation if I told anyone what I saw." The videos, Genevieve grasped at her last defense, were deleted. "The blackmail material was archived on my secure servers," Clyde finished. "Every Thursday night for 20 years, backed up automatically." "Did you really think I wouldn't have protection systems in place? That I wouldn't monitor my own home?" The police began moving through the crowd, separating the key players. Pablo collapsed as officers approached, knowing his legal career was over. Felix stood defeated between his two furious wives, unable to look at either family. Les was already in handcuffs, his victims coming forward one by one to press charges. "You destroyed everything," Genevieve spat at Clyde. "Our home, our reputation, our son's wedding." "No," Clyde's voice was arctic. "You destroyed it. The moment you turned my marriage into a mockery. The moment you helped Les prey on innocent girls. The moment you used my own security systems to film your betrayal." He turned to address the stunned crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the dramatic revelation, but these people needed to be exposed. Their victims deserve justice." Richard from the law firm stepped forward. "Mr. Weaver, the evidence against Pablo will be sent to the Bar Association and District Attorney," Clyde assured him, "along with proof of every crime these people committed. No deals, no settlements, no cover-ups." As the police led the four conspirators away, Clyde watched his son's face. Michael's world had just shattered, but there was understanding in his eyes. Better the brutal truth than a lifetime of lies. 1 year had passed since the night Clyde Weaver destroyed 4 lives with surgical precision. The courtroom buzzed with tension as Genevieve's appeal hearing reached its conclusion. Clyde sat in the gallery, his posture rigid as the judge delivered her ruling. Appeal denied, the judge announced firmly. The original sentence stands. 20 years without possibility of early parole. Genevieve's shoulders slumped as the reality sank in. Her designer clothes had been replaced by prison orange, her perfectly manicured hands now bound in handcuffs. She turned to glare at Clyde, but he merely watched impassively as officers led her away. Outside the courthouse, reporters clamored for statements. The case had captured national attention. A cybersecurity mogul using his own technology to expose a decades-long web of betrayal and crime. Mr. Weaver, any comment on your wife's failed appeal? How did you obtain the evidence that brought down Pablo Burton's law firm? What about Felix Koch's families? Have they reached a settlement? Les North's victims are suing the school district. Will you testify? Clyde moved through the press with practiced ease, offering no comments. The past year had seen the systematic dismantling of everything his betrayers had built. Pablo faced 15 years for embezzlement. His law firm had collapsed under the scandal, the managing partners fighting their own legal battles for failing to detect the fraud. His gambling debts had surfaced, destroying any chance of future redemption in the legal community. Felix's double life had imploded spectacularly. Both wives had taken him for everything in their divorce proceedings. His real estate empire crumbled as clients fled the scandal. Neither family would speak to him, his children from both marriages united only in their hatred of his deception. Les's case had been the most satisfying. 12 victims came forward, their testimony damning. The school board faced massive liability for ignoring warning signs. Les would spend the rest of his life in prison, registered as a predator, his reputation destroyed beyond repair. And Genevieve, the architect of it all, faced the harshest punishment. The evidence of her blackmail operation, her role in facilitating Les's crimes, her financial manipulation, it had all come out in court. The judge had been particularly unmoved by her attempts to paint herself as a victim. Detective Morgan Dudley waited by Clyde's car. Heard the appeal was denied. 20 years minimum. Justice served. Clyde replied simply, straightening his tie. You know, there are still questions about exactly how you got some of that evidence, Morgan observed. The technical details of the surveillance. Some questions are better left unanswered. Clyde's tone ended that line of inquiry. The evidence was legally obtained and properly submitted. That's all that matters. They walked in silence for a moment before Morgan spoke again. How's Michael handling everything? Better than expected. The truth hurt, but lies would have been worse. Clyde checked his watch. Speaking of Michael, I need to head to the church. His wedding is in 2 hours. The church was elegant, but understated. Catherine stood waiting outside, stronger now that Genevieve's threats no longer hung over her. The past year had healed much of the damage, though the scars remained. Ready? She asked as Clyde approached. For my son's wedding? Of course. He adjusted his cufflinks, new ones, the old pair tainted by memories of his own wedding day. Inside, Michael stood with his groomsmen, new friends from medical school, untainted by the betrayals of the past. His fiancée was everything Genevieve was: an honest, kind, genuinely in love. Edith beamed proudly from the front row, no longer burdened by secrets. The congregation was smaller than originally planned. Many former friends had distanced themselves after the scandal, but it was genuine. No hidden agendas, no secret recordings, no lies. As Michael exchanged vows with his bride, Clyde allowed himself a moment of reflection. The destruction of his first marriage had been spectacular, but necessary. His son would build his life on truth, not deception. His sister could hold her head high again. His mother could sleep peacefully, no longer protecting terrible secrets. The reception was elegant, but intimate. No elaborate shows of wealth, no false friends pretending to celebrate. Just family and true friends, healing and moving forward. Morgan appeared during the dancing, accepting a glass of champagne. Quite different from last year's party, he observed. Last year was an execution, Clyde replied quietly. This is a celebration. You know, in 25 years of law enforcement, I've never seen anything quite like what you did. The precision, The completeness of the destruction. They violated my home. Clyde's voice hardened. Corrupted my marriage. Betrayed my trust. The response had to be absolute. Morgan studied him thoughtfully. The technical evidence, the surveillance recordings, some might consider the methods. Some questions, Clyde interrupted smoothly, don't require answers. The guilty were punished. Justice was served. The methods are irrelevant. He turned away, joining his family on the dance floor. Michael had found happiness despite the trauma of discovery. Catherine had reclaimed her dignity. Edith could look her son in the eye again, proud of how he'd protected their family. The cost had been high, 4 lives destroyed, countless others damaged by the revelations. But as Clyde watched his son dance with his new wife, he felt no regret. Some betrayals required a nuclear response. Some lessons needed to be taught harshly to be truly learned. They had thought him too busy with work to notice, too trusting to suspect. They had forgotten what he did for a living, forgotten that his entire empire was built on protecting secrets. Now they would spend years remembering their mistake, paying the price for underestimating Clyde Weaver's capacity for ruthless justice. The music played, the guests danced, and somewhere in a prison cell, Genevieve Boyer began her 2-decade journey of regret. The perfect life she had corrupted was gone, replaced by something harder, but more genuine. And Clyde, the man she had betrayed, continued building his empire, stronger now for having excised the cancer of deception from his world. Some questions didn't need answers. Some victories didn't require explanation. And some men, when betrayed, would burn down heaven itself to achieve justice. Epilogue, 10 years later. The Massachusetts Correctional Institution for Women maintained strict visiting hours. Genevieve Boyer, inmate number 247891, sat in the sterile visiting room, her once perfect appearance now marked by prison-issued clothing and graying hair. 10 years into her 20-year sentence had stripped away every vestige of her former glamorous life. Visitor for Boyer, the guard announced. Catherine Weaver entered, her confident stride a stark contrast to their last encounter a decade ago. She chose to stand rather than sit across from her former sister-in-law. Surprised to see me? Catherine asked, studying the woman who had once threatened to destroy her. Why are you here? Genevieve's voice had lost its smooth manipulation, replaced by the rough edge of prison life. Closure, Catherine replied simply. And to deliver news. The last of Les's victims won their civil suit against the school district yesterday. $30 million in damages. They're using the money to create a foundation for abuse survivors. Genevieve flinched. Les North's fate had been particularly brutal. 8 years into his sentence, he had been found dead in his cell, justice served by fellow inmates who despised child predators. His victims' testimonies had inspired changes in educational oversight across 3 states. Pablo hanged himself last month, Catherine continued dispassionately. The gambling debts finally caught up with him. Even after serving his sentence for embezzlement, no law firm would touch him. He was working as a paralegal under a different name when his past was exposed again. And Felix? Genevieve asked, unable to hide her curiosity. Still alive, if you can call it that. Both families took everything in the divorce settlements. He's working at a car wash in Nevada, living in a weekly rental motel. His children from both marriages wrote a book about growing up with a bigamous father. It's being adapted into a streaming series. Genevieve absorbed the information, her hands trembling slightly. And Clyde? Catherine's expression hardened. My brother's empire has tripled in size. The scandal actually helped. Everyone wanted security systems from the man who caught his own wife's betrayal. He's become the go-to expert for corporate espionage and digital protection. They call him the digital executioner in tech circles. Michael. Genevieve whispered her son's name. Chief of neurosurgery at Mass General. 3 beautiful children you'll never meet. His wife just finished her 2nd book on helping children cope with parental betrayal. She's using your case as the primary example. Genevieve's facade cracked slightly. He'll never forgive me? He's moved past forgiveness or hatred, Catherine replied coldly. You simply don't exist in his world anymore. When his children ask about their grandmother, he tells them she died before they were born. In every way that matters, he's right. The former socialite slumped in her chair. A decade in prison had stripped away not just her freedom, but her entire identity. The weekly poker nights, the elaborate manipulations, the careful blackmail. It all seemed like another lifetime. "Why tell me all this?" she asked finally. "Because Clyde wanted you to know the full scope of what your betrayal cost. Not just your freedom, but the complete destruction of everyone involved in your little game." Catherine placed a thick envelope on the table. "These are the last videos from your poker nights. The only copies left. Clyde kept them as insurance, but they're not needed anymore. You can have them destroyed or keep them as a reminder. He doesn't care either way. He's really done with me? After 25 years of marriage, he was done the moment Mother caught you. Everything after that was just execution of justice." Catherine turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and those offshore accounts you thought were hidden? The ones you were building for your escape? Clyde found them years ago. The money's been funding counseling for Les's victims." Genevieve watched her former sister-in-law leave, clutching the envelope containing evidence of her downfall. In her darkest prison nights, she still dreamed of her perfect life. The mansion, the social status, the power she had wielded over her lovers. Now, a decade later, she understood the true cost of underestimating Clyde Weaver. Across the city, Clyde sat in his expanded office suite, reviewing security protocols for a major tech firm. At 55, his reputation for digital protection had made him a legend in cybersecurity circles. Companies sought him out not just for his technical expertise, but for his personal experience in exposing betrayal. Chester Klein, now Chief Technology Officer, entered with the latest quarterly reports. The new AI detection systems are exceeding expectations. 17 corporate espionage attempts blocked this month alone. And the special project? Clyde asked. Felix's new identity has been flagged trying to access old accounts again. His third attempt this year to rebuild his life under a new name. Send the usual warning to his employers, Clyde ordered. Let them discover his history themselves. No direct intervention needed. Chester nodded, remembering how methodically they had destroyed the betrayers' lives. Detective Dudley called. They're using our case as a training example at the FBI's Cybercrime Division. He wants to know if you'll speak at their conference. Decline politely, Clyde replied. Some methods are better left unexplained. The intercom buzzed. Sir, your son is here. Michael entered, his surgical scrubs replaced by casual clothes. At 36, he had built his own reputation separate from the scandal that had destroyed his mother. Dad, we're all waiting at the house. Sandra's got dinner ready. The kids are dying to show you their science projects. Clyde smiled, a genuine expression reserved for family. After Genevieve's betrayal, watching Michael find happiness with Sandra had been his greatest victory. His daughter-in-law had helped heal wounds Clyde hadn't even recognized. The grandchildren are getting Chester's old security patents for Christmas, he said, gathering his things. Never too early to learn protection protocols. Michael laughed. They're 7, 5, and 3, Dad. Maybe start with regular computers first. They headed out together, passing walls lined with awards and recognitions. The plaque that had once displayed Clyde and Genevieve's wedding photo now held a family portrait. Clyde, Michael, Sandra, the grandchildren, Catherine, and Edith. No traces remained of the woman who had betrayed them all. At home, Catherine had already arrived with Edith. The weekly family dinners had become sacred, a reclaiming of Thursday nights. Sandra's warm welcome and the children's excited chatter had erased the poisonous memories of poker nights and secret recordings. Later, as the family gathered in the living room, Edith watched her son with pride. The scandal that had threatened to destroy them had instead forged stronger bonds. Catherine had found her voice, Michael had found true love, and Clyde had reminded the world why he was both respected and feared. Detective Morgan Dudley's words from years ago still rang true. Some questions were better left unanswered. The methods Clyde had used to expose the betrayal remained technically legal, but morally ambiguous. His revenge had been complete, brutal, and absolutely justified. In her prison cell, Genevieve stared at the envelope containing the last evidence of her sins. 10 years of incarceration stretched ahead, followed by a lifetime of consequences. She had played with fire, thinking herself cleverer than the man who built an empire on protecting secrets. Her punishment was not just the loss of freedom, but the complete erasure of her existence from the lives of those she had betrayed. The Weaver family continued forward, stronger for having survived betrayal, wiser for having faced darkness. And Clyde, the man they had underestimated, the husband they had deceived, the father they had disrespected, stood as a testament to an ancient truth. Some men, when betrayed, would not rest until justice was served in full measure. The digital age had given betrayal new tools, new methods of deception, but it had also given power to those who knew how to wield technology like a surgeon's scalpel, cutting out disease with precision and finality. Clyde Weaver had become more than a successful businessman. He had become a warning to anyone who thought they could hide their sins behind electronic walls. In the end, the price of betrayal was not just punishment, but complete annihilation. The poker nights had ended. The perfect life had been exposed as a lie. And in its place, a stronger truth had emerged, built on the ashes of destruction and the foundation of unwavering justice. Some lessons, after all, needed to be taught harshly to be truly learned. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.